Hello and welcome to Down the Slope as ever. I'm Ewan and once again I'm joined by Greg. We've got a returning Liam and Harry will be joining us in the next 5 to 10 minutes, so he's just running a bit late. How you doing, boys?
Not bad. Another week in no Hibs. Good.
Oh, I feel the positivity.
I mean, just before we get in it, I mean, people are, understandably, people are still pissed off at the final and that, but people are still walking about like, it's all I'm thinking about. Like, it's been 2 weeks now. Like, come on, the sun's shining. Scotland are about to kick off in the Euros. Let's no think about the past. And in line with that, what we're going to do is play a little bit of fantasy football manager, if you like. Take a look at the squad, what we would like to see happen in the summer going forward for next season. Maybe some things that we think are realistic in terms of incomings and outgoings, and maybe the same in terms of dream hypothetical scenarios. I think when we look at the dream things, maybe let's look at a sort of really outrageous dream one, like your Messis of the world. A dream one that might be semi-realistic. So I'm thinking maybe a Alan Campbell figure, one that's probably not going to happen, and then the realistic ones we can go from there, or what we think is realistic for Hibs. So, well, we start by having a look at the squad that if pre-season was to start today, who would be showing up? So we've got 3 goalkeepers contracted: Macy, Dabrowski, and Paddy Martin. And obviously you've got the young goalkeeper as well. In fact, the young goalkeeper left in January actually, didn't he?
No, Murray Johnson's still there.
Oh, Murray Johnson, is he still there?
He's been trialled at basically every club down south, I think, but he's still on the books at Hibs. And
then defensive-wise, because it's actually, the squad's a bit beefier than what I would have imagined it would have been. Defensively, you're looking at Paul McCann, David Gray, Tom James, Ryan Porteous, Paul Hanlon, Dan McGregor, Lewis Stevenson, Josh Doig, and Sean Mackey. Midfielders / wingers as well: Martin Boyle, Daniel Mackay, Chris Cadden, Jamie Murphy, Dre Wright, Fraser Murray, Stevie Mallon, Scott Allen, Joe Newell, Melker Hallberg, Josh Campbell, Alex Gogic, Kyle McGuinness, and Stephen Bradley. And then your 4 strikers would be Kevin Nisbet, Christian Deutsch, Jamie Gullen, and Ryan Shanley. I'm sure his loan does expire, so he would be back, because I know League of Ireland's still going on, Greg, isn't it? Obviously, you've got mate over there, but I'm sure he is due back for the start of our pre-season. I'm sure his loan finishes with Finn Harps then. So he would be back as well. So quite a beefy squad. Obviously, there is a few youngsters in there that maybe, I don't know if you would consider them members of the first team squad in terms of like Ryan Shanley, Stevie Bradley. But I think Josh Campbell on his return from Edinburgh City the ages that would have to be considered a first team player, along with Fraser Murray and Jamie Gullen as well. So where do you think the main areas to strengthen would be, and who do you think's maybe a 99.9% likely to leave?
Areas to strengthen. I want 2 commanding centre halves for a start. Who's going to leave? I think unfortunately Hallberg. I think he'll leave. I think Josh Campbell might leave as well. Fraser Murray possibly. It depends what happens. But
do you think it would maybe be a situation where maybe for that number 10 position, you'll maybe have 2 of Murray, Allen, and Mallon?
Yeah. Mallon was obviously want to go back and get his teeth done in Turkey, so it might be an option for him to go back. But I don't know. I mean, Mallon's one of them that he's good if you play him in the right position, but it never seems to happen, so who knows?
Liam, just on that, Stevie Mallon, I don't know if you've seen the article that he done with I think it was the Evening News. Felt like he sort of had splinters on his arse a wee bit around whether he wanted to be at Hibs or whether he wanted to move on. Where do you land on that?
I'm a fucking football podcast geek, so I listened to his Scots Abroad pod as well, that he was on maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was kind of a similar message. It was very much, I'm weighing up my options. If I'm going to be a first team player, I'll stay at Hibs. If I'm not going to be a first team player, I want to leave. I think in the eyes of some of the Hibs supporters, Stevie Mallon's got better the longer he's been away as well, which is often I find to be the way that player goes away on loan or leaves the club and suddenly becomes a much better player than he actually was. He provides a goal scoring threat from midfield, really good set piece taker, and I don't want to detract from his abilities because he is a good footballer, but He's not quite the messiah that some make out that's going to solve all of our central attacking midfield issues next season.
As you think he's one step down to God.
No, I like Malin, and I definitely would want him to stay. I don't necessarily think he would be a guaranteed starter, but see if you're going into next season and your options at the number 10 are Stevie Malin and Scott Allen. I don't think outside the Old Firm anyone will have anything to compete with that in terms of depth for that sort of attacking midfielder position. Obviously, there's a big question mark probably over Scott Allen's fitness in terms of, yeah, we've just got to see what, you know what I mean? There is that sort of question mark over Scott Allen just now, unfortunately. And I don't like always reverting to stats and that, but I do it a lot. Stevie Malin's best season at Hibs racks up with the best numbers Scott Allen's produced at Hibs in the top flight. Obviously, the season in the championship, Scott Allen was better. And I've seen people saying, "Oh, well, Malin was only good for the first half of his Player of the Year season." Scott Allen's only been really good in the second half of the season when he came back on loan. Really, I didn't think he was that great in the season that got curtailed from. What's this fucking COVID? Fucking how is that? It was like I didn't like. So for me, like I don't think Scott Allen's face fits, and I think in the mind of a lot of Hibs fans, Stevie Malin's face doesn't fit because when he came in, he wasn't Scott Allen, John McGinn, or Dylan McGeoch.
Scott Allen's got that championship credit in the bank as well, to supplement that second half of that Lennon season, which I know sometimes don't like to refer back that far, and because it's in the championship, some people may discount it, but I do think he's got a bit more credit in the bank with Hibs supporters. I think the thing with Malin is I do agree that quite often he's been used in the wrong position, or he's been used in multiple different positions rather than being nailed down to one. But we're not always going to play with a number 10. So if we're not always going to play with a number 10, what's the point of having three of them on the books for next season? And I think the situation with Malin and Allen is both the same, that they've both got a year left on their deal, I think I'm right in saying. So with Stevie Malin, there's a bit of resale value.
Yep, aye.
Scott Allen, there's not. No one's coming in and paying 250 grand for Scott Allen.
The age that they're at as well, yeah. Do you think that any of the youngsters that are returning, Josh Campbell obviously had a successful season at Edinburgh City, albeit in League Two, and I think he must be getting to 22, maybe even 23 now as well. Again, I might be wrong, but it does feel like he's sort of been in and around the sort of first team squad for about 3 sort of pre-seasons now. Fraser Murray, Jamie Gullen and Ryan Chandley coming back. Do you think any of them have a chance of still being a first team player come the end of the sort of transfer window closing, or do you think they'll all be away on loan again or potentially sent off to find somewhere else? And as I say that, Harry is just joining us, but we'll let him settle in. So what do you think on that, Liam?
I think give them pre-season, assess them in pre-season, see what kind of condition they've come back in. If their mindset is in the right place to push for a place in the first team, then give them that opportunity. I think Gullen is the likeliest of all of them, if I'm being honest, to push for a place in the first team based on what I've seen of him. I like Josh Campbell, but I think it's a major caveat that he was playing League Two football last season. He did look very, very good at that level, probably too good for that level. But we saw with Doig, it's possible to go from League Two to playing in the Premiership. But I would suspect that Campbell would get maybe another season on loan at another maybe Championship club to prove that he's good enough to come and challenge the first team.
At Hibs,
Yeah, we'll stay at Hibs. Yeah, I think it would make sense to keep him on the books because I think there's definitely something there. But whether it's ready right now or not, I don't know.
Welcome, Harry. You finally decided to join us.
Yeah, go Birds.
Harry, I just posed to Greg and Liam around sort of the players that are currently in the squad. Obviously Stevie Malin's returning, Scott Allen's returning, Fraser Murray's returning, etc. Is there anyone in your mind that you think is 100% a goner? The one that we've sort of settled on is we first team wise. I think we're all in agreement. Melker Hallberg will probably move on this summer, and then I think if the money comes in for Stevie Malin, then we think he might go as well. Is there anyone else on that sort of current list that you would think might go?
No, it's a tricky one. I think you're right to say that Hallberg's probably going to go. I would like to think that Gray will either retire this summer and take up a full-time coaching role, or I don't want him to see him play elsewhere, but I think for his own benefit, if he's still wanting to play, I don't think he's going to get that game time at Hibs. Mm-hmm. So potentially a loan out to a team like Dunfermline. We seem to have a really good relationship with him, especially with Whittaker becoming a coach there. It wouldn't surprise me to see Gray go there. Not permanently. If he left permanently, I think we'd all be heartbroken. It would be a terrible transfer window. But yeah, no. I think if Twitter had anything to do with it, I think Dre Wright would be out the club. But I do hope that he gets another season, because I do think there's actually something there with him. But yeah.
Yeah, Dre Wright's another one, like what Liam, you mentioned about Scott Allen and Stevie Maloney's out of contract next summer. Without looking on, I could jump on the transfer market and look at it, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of players that are out of contract next summer, as tends to be the case. You see that sort of cycle every couple of years. Harry mentions Dre Wright there, Greg. So in sort of terms of wide players right now on the books, you've got Martin Boyle, Daniel Mackay, Chris Cadden, Jamie Murphy, Dre Wright, and Stevie Bradley, and potentially you could be looking at Fraser Murray can even do a job out wide. Doing a job might be a bit excessive, but do you think Dre Wright's days might be numbered, or do you think he'll still be here? Just because that's a very bit bulky area of the squad now, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really an area of the squad that we're overly strong in. I mean, Jamie Murphy misses a lot of games. Daniel Mackay looks a good prospect, but will he come straight in the team? Who knows?
So. I think he will, because I think, depending on formation, but I think he'll you look at what we've done with Kevin Nisbet. I think it's probably a similar situation.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? It's one of them that he could come right in, or he could be on the fringes for a couple of months until he makes the move in. But I think Dre Wright has something. What he's got, I'm not sure, but he definitely has something. He obviously looked all right up front with Elga Hallberg against Celtic. But yeah, look, I think he's one of them that's maybe more of an impact player. He's got the pace to pull players apart, but as a starter, definitely not. Fraser Murray's another one we spoke about before in the podcast.
Yeah.
I think we kind of agreed that it wasn't going to happen from at Hibs, and then he went on loan and seemed to do quite well, and then kind of tailed off towards the end of the season. So who knows, you know?
Yeah. Did it surprise you that we didn't see more? I've maybe just posed this to the three. Do you think, did it surprise you at all that we didn't see more of Dre Wright at sort of right wing back when Martin Boyle was sort of playing up front? Because I think he played that position a lot for St Johnstone, if I recall. Did he play? I think he played right wing back at Ibrox and played really well as well. Like, I think maybe that is. I think that's probably half the reason we signed him, for that sort of flexibility, because we're going with a smaller squad. Do you think that might be enough for him to stay at Hibs?
Nah, because he's nowhere near that. You know, you've got Chris Cadden in front of him. Chris Cadden's 10 times the player he is. So for me, if that's why I keep him, then you may as well get rid of him. You know, there's no point keeping boys if they're not going to play. It doesn't benefit the club, and it doesn't benefit the player either. So for me, if you're looking at right wing back, then for me, Chris Cadden's that man all day long.
Mahusive tangent that I'm about to come out with here, but see, Gareth Southgate's called up Ben White to the England squad. Ben White plays for Brighton club. We've obviously announced the partnership with Ben White. Has played, I think, centre back, right of the back three, right wing back, centre midfield, and centre defensive midfield for Brighton this season. A lot of managers at the moment have got a real hard on for guys that allow them to play with sort of tactical flexibility, but I think there's a real danger sometimes that you fill your squad full of guys who are versatile, but masters of, what's the expression? Jack of all trades, masters of none. And I think Dre Wright
fucking cliche
could potentially be that. Fucking full of them. Fucking tangents and cliches. That's all I've got.
Jack Ross of all trades, master of none.
Fuck off.
Do you know what? Maybe it was mainly because I was really young in his first spell, but Ian Murray sort of sprang. I mean, I think he was a good player, but he played left back, fucking left mid, centre half, like.
That was, I think, as he got older, Ian Murray, though, because he was really a centre midfielder who sometimes got shunted out to left because he was left-footed. And then when he went to Rangers, Alex McLeish started playing him at left back because I think he thought he was good enough to play centre midfield for Rangers. And then kind of made a career as a left back. And then when he came back, fuck knows what he was, kind of centre half that sort of played centre half or left back at times.
I mean, it's Lewis Stevenson. We started off at left mid and then went to centre mid and then left back, and I mean, we could do this with Mr. Paul Hanlon, but he's not going to get any airtime on tonight's podcast.
He is here to stay, and this is a transfer special.
So it is like, look, we've got 29.
He could be nowhere near the club, to be honest.
Of the players, fuck off, Greg. Of the players listed that we've said that we think will be there on the first day of pre-season, That's 29 players, not including a third choice goalkeeper. That's fucking huge. Like, and we're talking about wanting to bring players in as well. Obviously, I mean, that's including your Bradleys, your Chandleys, your Gullins, and that, obviously. Let's just have a quick summary here before, and then I think we really want to talk about probably Porteous, Nisbet, and Doig again, probably maybe as potential outgoings. But Mason Dabrowski, I think, will both be Hibs players next season. Yep. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe Paddy Martin went on loan again and we signed a third keeper. But let's just go keeper sell, right? Paul McGann.
Keep.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with David Gray, loan, stay, go.
Go.
I'm not saying I don't want him away from the club, but I don't want him as a player at the club. So go in that.
Yeah.
Tom James.
Go.
Fucking
sell him to. I will give him a piggyback to wherever he wants to go.
Do you think we'd be looking for a fee for that, or do you think it would be just a mutual contract,
Based on how he was doing at Wigan, if he just stayed the rest of the season at Wigan, it would have been laughing on the way back. And then he went to fucking Salford and couldn't get a game.
Did he not play there? No.
Hardly at all.
Very rarely.
Banging them in for Wigan.
Ryan Porteous will come to. Paul Hanlon will stay. Darren McGregor, similar situation to David Gray, or do you think he's still got 15 football?
The only reason he stays because we've not got enough players. Like Darren McGregor shouldn't be in the picture, in my opinion. He's played well enough, but I think we should be getting. He's 36.
No. Wait, we'll come on to potential areas.
He's had about 4 years worth of injuries in his career, though. He doesn't play like a 36-year-old.
I don't think the only reason he doesn't play like a 36-year-old is because he only plays 5 times a season. If he played more than 10 games a season, you'd be giving him the Paul Hanlon treatment.
Harry, stop. Just stop.
Right, Mr. Grumpy Goals, I love Darren McGregor as much, if not more, than the next guy. But if Darren McGregor was our first choice centre back for the season, we'd be fucked. Simple as.
If he started a fourth choice next season, which I think he will be, I'm more than happy with that. Because I think he's demonstrated he can come in and do a job.
I would agree. I'm on. So Harry, you've been vetoed 3-1 here. Right, we've got 3 left backs. Lewis Stevenson, he's signing our year's contract. He'll still be here. Josh Doig will come on to talk about him with Porteous and Nisbet. Sean Mackey.
Go.
You'll be championing him, Uni.
It's a keep for me. I think he's decent. I do. I like Sean Mackey. If he can stay fit, though. I mean, I think he's another one coming into the last year's contract. So it's a big season for him in terms of, like, it'll be interesting to see if Josh Doig does go, if Jack Ross signs a left back or not, because if he doesn't, then I think that means Mackey's first choice. I don't see us going back to Stevenson as the starting left back after this season. Right, moving into midfield, Martin Boyle, 500k release clause. Does he go or does he stay?
I would have said keep before that fucking final performance and that dive. I suppose you need to keep him.
I'd keep him. Most goal.
Daniel Mackay's just signed. Chris Cadden's just signed. Jamie Murphy, we know, is here for another year. That was Dre Wright. We've spoke of Dre. So what are we saying on Dre Wright then? Keep or go?
Keep.
I've got to be honest.
That's an option.
Fraser Murray. This will be an interesting one. I think it's a big pre-season for Fraser Murray, but I just don't see how he gets in the team. I don't see how.
Yeah, big pre-season for Fraser Murray for the past 6 years, man.
But this is the thing.
Benjamin Button, he's been about forever.
But this is the thing. So I was like, Fraser Murray must be 23, 24. It feels like he must have made his debut when he was 17 or something, because he's only 21. Like, so maybe 22.
He came on the scene at the same time Fraser Fyvie played for Aberdeen. That is a fact.
Is he doing that thing that people are doing through COVID? If they have a birthday during lockdown, they're just no counting.
They count. Scott, Stevie Mallon. So we've mentioned him. For me, it's a keep. I think you want players like Stevie Mallon in your squad.
Even if I deal morning on Twitter. Honestly, it just winds me up. He's a good player and he gets absolutely lambasted for no reason. Winds me up.
No, I wouldn't say it was for no reason, Harry, but
it is fun. He's made the scapegoat.
Doesn't make tackles. Our goal scoring striker Kevin Nisbet doesn't make tackles. Didn't get him at the club.
Chris Noyes doing some great defensive work.
Getting what Hibs fans sound like, getting that Bammy bloody Cardiff City owner when he was like, we need a new goalkeeper. Our goalkeeper's not scored all season. Obviously, he's a fucking goalkeeper. Stevie Mallon's a goal scoring midfielder. Didn't he jump in for no tracking back and tackle? Winds me up, man.
Right, so I think me and Harry are saying keep Liam Gregg. Where are you landed on Stevie Mallon? Is it if the price is right?
Yeah, 100%.
Just right. Goodbye.
Yeah. If it's more than 250k, I 100% let him go.
Yep.
For me, if it's more than 150k, let him go.
Right, okay. Scott Allen, I think we mentioned it. Even if Hibs didn't want him, I don't think anyone would come in and pay enough money for us to get rid of him. And I personally still think Scott Allen's got enough to be playing in a team in third in the league. But like we said, there's a question mark there around everything else, which is understandable. Joe Newell still obviously signed his new deal. He'll still be here. Halberg, we think, is going to be away. Josh Campbell, we mentioned. I think he's gone. I do. I think he might be away. I just don't. You look at Fraser Murray, Jamie Gullen, they're in loans in League Two. Even like Paddy Martins at Stenhousemuir and is it Callum Yates was at Stenhousemuir as well?
Yeah.
Josh Campbell's playing in League Two. I think that tells you everything. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into that.
That's an absolute Hamilton signing.
I wouldn't chuck him totally. If I'm honest, I really wouldn't chuck him totally. I would send a bit on loan for another season. See where he's at and then make a decision for there.
Because it was him and Ben Sterling that sort of played together in centre midfield last pre-season or the season before, and obviously Ben Sterling then left. Did he just leave last summer?
Yeah.
Or was it? Aye.
Yeah, am I not right in saying, did you guys go to the Carlisle game, the 4-3 one where we came back from 3-1 down?
Yeah, Josh Campbell scored.
Unbelievable. He was balling that day. I like that.
I've been impressed with Josh Campbell anytime I've seen him in like sort of pre-season or League Cup group stages. But I was really surprised when he ended up at fucking Edinburgh City, because he went on loan last season to Arbroath, and with him and Ben Sterling both went. Neither of them really played. And then I can't remember where Campbell went after that. He went somewhere else in the second half of the season. I think dropped a league, and then so he went from Championship to League One to League Two. But he has had a really good season at Edinburgh City. I think he scored double figures goals, I'm sure.
That issue shouting about Stevie Mallon scoring goals from midfield, and now you want Josh Campbell out for scoring goals from midfield.
My name's Greg. I prefer midfielders scoring goals in League Two in the Premiership.
Alex Gogic, Alex Gogic will still be. We all want Alex Gogic at Hibs next season, right? Kyle McGuinness, there's absolutely no danger he's leaving this summer, is there, after we Flock put for him last year? What's your thoughts on Kyle McGuinness going into the new season? Big
season for him. He needs to demonstrate some of that promise he showed at St Mirren, and he needs to stay injury free. Simple as.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to be viewed as a starter this season? Do you think Jack Ross will want him in his first choice team?
Got a lot of work to do to get in that starting lineup based on his performances last season, I think.
Do you think he would start in the selection of midfielders we have currently at the club without signing anyone?
Probably not. No.
I think he needs to get himself blessed or something, because he's just been heavy and lucky since he joined. Like, if
I think to be honest, he was captain of St Mirren. There is something there.
Think,
100%.
He's been unlucky, but for me, this isn't. You don't get a 4-year deal if you're shite, to be honest. No, now anyway. But he's got a lot of work to do, a lot of people to prove wrong, I think. So yeah, this season is huge for him.
I like him. I think, I actually thought it was good. I would say between October and Christmas, and I think that's when he was playing left mid, and I think you could see that he's not a left midfielder. I agree. Big season for him. Do you think he would start in central midfield over Stevie Mallon now?
Yes.
And what are you basing that off?
I'm just curious. This is the thing. Where do you think
genuinely?
No. I think the answer. I think based on the kind. I think based on the kind of midfielders that our manager likes, I don't think Mallon is a straight replacement for Jack Snurvan, because he doesn't have anywhere near the athleticism of Jack Snurvan. He doesn't have the physicality. He, to be honest, he doesn't impact games in the way that a McGuinness could, and the way that Irvin has impacted games in his time at Hibs. I think Steve Mallon's a fine player, but I don't think he's a box-to-box midfielder by any stretch of imagination. I think that's what Ross wants in their side, Newell and Gogic, because neither of those guys really do that role either.
I would agree with that. I think Kyle McGuinness would have played a lot more football if Jackson Irvine wasn't available in January.
Yeah.
I think so. Final midfielder, Stevie Bradley. I would like to see Stevie Bradley go on loan. I think next season. I think we already seen a glimpse of him against Hamilton. He's been in and around the Hibs first team squad, so he's sort of got that experience, I guess, of like being in it. And I think now's the time for him to go and play. I know he's still young, but like after being that heavily involved in the first team, I think for him to then go back to the reserves or the 18s permanently, I think if he goes to League One, I don't even know Championship if he'd start week in out now, but I think Stevie Bradley should go on loan. What about you?
I think one thing that's very obvious from Jack Ross in the past season, he doesn't really like using youngsters. I think he had plenty of opportunity to try and bleed some young players into the team. I don't think he could have been criticised if he tried to give Gullen game time when Doidge was falling off, and I don't think if he put Bradley in the team at times, I don't think he would have been criticised for it. I think there was plenty of opportunity. I just think you'd rather go with experienced players than younger players. I think that was a common theme. I think that was the reason why they didn't like him at Sunderland as well, I'm sure, because they had like the highest average age in the league.
I understand that.
Sorry, I was going to come in as his official cheerleader. So as his appointed official cheerleader, I do think that there was a bit of difficulty with the whole bubble system last season, particularly towards the end of last season, which meant that you had one first team bubble and under 19 bubble, and then they're playing on a Friday night, so you couldn't then play them on a Saturday. I think the obvious exception to that, I'd call it, is Josh Doig. He threw him in at the start of the season and pretty much kept him in the team right through. I agree. I'd like to have seen more of Bradley. I definitely would like to have seen more of Gullen in the first half of the season. I think it was really disappointing he didn't get more minutes, particularly in even some League Cup games he sat on the bench. But they've got to be right and good enough as well. And there's some guys that are kind of been on the fringes who are still like 16, 17. That kind of golden generation that Graham Maffey's talked about. I'd like to see them get minutes, but sometimes I just don't know if it's right to throw a 16-year-old in if physically they're not at the right stage of their development to play men's football. But,
so strikers, Kevin Nisbet, and we'll quickly talk about the three that we think might go for serious money in the summer before we move on to the really fun stuff about who we're signing. Christian Doidge, keep.
That's why you get rid of.
Jamie Gullen and Ryan Chandley. Let's just do the final two. I think Chandley will go on loan. I think we'll sign a striker, keep Gullen, and Chandley will go on loan. Would be my guess. And if Nisbet goes, we'll sign two strikers. Would be my.
From what I'm aware, this is just like hearsay. I don't know how good the source is. Gullen was supposedly very unhappy at the lack of playing time, and he very much forced the move in January. And I think if he's not going to be getting minutes in the first team, I don't think he wants to be at the club, and I don't think he wants another loan. And for me, I know that Liam's quite a big fan, but for me, from when I've seen him, to be honest, I missed quite a few games last year living down south, but whenever I seen him play, I wasn't overly impressed by him, and I don't think he's done enough yet to prove that he deserves to be third choice striker. I'd rather have a different player and have them as third choice and automatically feel comfortable having him, if that makes sense.
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because you look at, he obviously went on the first half of last season, went to Raith Rovers and done really well, came back to Hibs, scored against Inverness in the league. I think he was starting to non-league, in the Scottish Cup, and then the season ended. So I think he probably would have got more game time towards the end of that season. I think, and then obviously, he scored against Cove. I want to say he scored in another League Cup game, maybe, but I don't think he scored a league goal yet. But then, has he had enough game? I think it's difficult to judge, and I think from a player's point of view, I can see why he'd maybe be frustrated, because I think if obviously we pulled him back for Raith Rovers last season in the January window with you're coming to be a team member of the first team squad. COVID hits. He basically lost a year of football by the time he's went back to Raith Rovers, and probably made about fucking 300 minutes of football if he's lucky in the space of a year. So I think that is an interesting one. I think he's plenty under contract though, because did he not sign a 4-year deal or something? I'm sure he signed a long-term deal maybe at the same time that Porteous did. The last time Porteous signed a deal, maybe got 2 years left. Anyway, let's talk the big bucks. Kevin Nisbet, Josh Doig, Ryan Porteous. Ron Gordon said he would think that one or two might go in the summer. I think people have taken it too far and said, "Oh, Hibs have confirmed 2 of them are leaving." That's not what was said, and they've said the price is right. What is the price tag you'd like to see for each of them, and who do you think is most likely to leave to pastures new?
Pastures
Anyone?
Well, I'll start off. I'll honk the trumpet. You don't honk a trumpet, you honk a horn. But for me, I don't want to see Josh Doig go unless it's crazy money. He's under contract, and I don't think if we keep him at the club, he's going to refuse to play. Like when Ryan Gauld left Dundee United years ago, I never really understood why Dundee United took such a low fee from him when he was like such a hot prospect. For me, I'd be wanting upwards of 10 million before Josh Doig leaves, because if he stays at the club, he's our left back. Well, if he was to stay beyond his contract at the moment, he could comfortably be our left back for the next 15 years, and that's not even being dramatic. Like, I don't see why we'd let for me at the moment, first name on the team sheet is Josh Doig, and that doesn't change for any game unless he's needed rested. So I don't see why you'd let him go for anything that's not a stupid fee. Because if he was English and playing in the Championship, he'd be going to a Premier League team for between 15 to 20 million. So I don't understand why we take like 4 million. For me, that's an insult. I don't think we should accept that. That's nowhere near his valuation. Kevin Nisbet, it's difficult because good strikers are easier to come by than good defenders, in my opinion. Especially moving down south, we've got quite a plethora of talent in there. I think upwards of 4 to 5 million. I don't think that the club would say no, and I wouldn't be annoyed to see him go for that. I would be gutted if he left before fans got to see him play, because that would just be really weird, like watching this guy on TV the whole year, not actually seeing him in the flesh. And who was the third one? Porteous.
Yes.
Porteous is erratic, and if scouts watch every second game, they'll think he's an amazing player and we'll get a £4 million bid for him. But if they watch every game, then that'll probably be halved.
Well, it depends what week they're watching it.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a hard one for me, because you know where I stand on Porteous. I do really love him. I think he's passionate. His leadership in the game is something that puts him in great stead. I think personality is a massive thing in modern football, but I don't think we'd get anywhere near 3 million for him. I think the club would be happy with 2 million.
Who would you expect to leave out the free, Harry?
It's tricky. I think Nisbet's gone, to be honest, but I don't think Doig will leave, and if he does leave, I think he'd come back on loan.
Right. Liam, what about yourself? Start with the Ryan Porteous one, because you're definitely, me and Greg, I think, are sort of in the middle on Porteous. I'd say Harry's probably the most critical, and you're definitely the champion.
I just think there's just so much room for him to grow still. I think if he cuts out the silly mistakes, I think he could be a top player for us. But I also recognise that with the availability of things like Y-Scout and availability of footage to football clubs, I think a lot of clubs will be scared out of putting an offer in for him that'll be acceptable based on some of those mistakes he makes. So I think Porteous stays. I think Harry's right. I think Nisbet goes. I think Nisbet goes for the right fee, though. I'm confident this club won't take a fee that's unacceptable. I probably differ slightly from Harry on Doig, in that I think. So I'm not resigned to losing him, but I think it's more likely he goes than he stays. And I think, look, I agree that 10 million would be a reasonable valuation, maybe even north of 10 million would be a reasonable valuation based on his potential and based on what he's done at Hibs so far. I think the sad reality of Scottish football is that if a club comes in with a bid somewhere between 5 and 10, let's just say, because let's be honest, we're all just taking a bit of a shot in the dark when it comes to fees, but 5 and 10 with future incentives, I think he probably goes with the option of coming back to us for a year or 18 months, which probably suits both parties because he gets another season of football under his belt. I think that's where we're at, but happy to be proven wrong by the club.
I don't know, again, Graham Massey done an interview. There was two, I think it was probably one interview that the Evening News have split into 2 articles, but he was talking about Kyle McGuinness in one of them and how pretty much we sort of ripped this season off for him. I didn't expect much from him. And the other one was talking about transfer fees. And it almost read like a plea to Scottish football this summer, basically being like, fucking be strong because they need us more than we need them now, sort of thing, in terms of England with Brexit and that. I think we're going to see, if they leave, I do think it'll be good fees. The one for me, Greg, I'll let you come in a minute. I think Nisbet's away, and I think we will get the right fee. I think out the 3, Doig's guaranteed to leave. Guaranteed to leave. I think his age, what he's done this year in his age, teams like was it Watford were mooted, fucking AC Milan, Arsenal, whatever, all the teams look at potential, and he has masses of potential. And I think he goes. I don't think he comes back on loan, because I think clubs, if Hibs want him to come back on loan, I think clubs would bump the fee down. I think they'd be looking at it and going, well, you're getting him for an extra year sort of thing. But I think he goes for north of 4 million, if I'm honest. Nisbet, I think we would want somewhere about 8 million for two that leave. And I think we would look at an overall sort of picture in terms of what are we bringing into the club, with sell-on fees and that. And I don't think Porteous will leave this summer. I really don't. Again, I don't expect him to leave, because I don't expect anyone to pay the money. But I think if anyone paid more than 1 or 2 million, then I think we would probably do a deal. But I don't expect the money. I don't expect the money to come in. What about you, Greg?
For me, north of 4 to 5 million for Nisbet. I think he's away. He's not coming. Nobody will see him at Easter Road in front of the fans. Doig is away, as far as I'm concerned. The money that they'll flash at him will be mental. I think not anywhere north of 6-7 million Hibs will take it. I think he's more than that, but Hibs will take it.
I think rightly so as well, though, I would say.
Yeah, I think that after the last year, I think for me, Hibs will take it. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't think it's the right decision, but Hibs will take 6 to 7 million for Josh Doig, and that's a fact.
Can I come in? Can I just say, I think that the problem with Scottish football is the governing of the game. I think that the reason why we're not able to go for higher funds for our players is the fact that we've not got any money to back us up in the first place. I think the fact
TV deals and that.
We've still not got a solid TV deal. We've not got a sponsor for the league. It's not the club's fault. But for me, realistically, I don't think the club will say no to a £4 million deal for Doig, which really annoys me. But yeah, no. Yeah, it sucks.
I'm on the same wavelength as you. I would say that had it, and I think that's a great point. When we don't, the club are sitting there like, are we getting what they can't? They don't know what they're going to get for the SPFL, because they don't know what the sponsorship deal is, so they don't know what that's going to trickle down. It's fucking ridiculous. But I think, and see, the thing for me is as well, if a big money does come in for Doig, say 5, 6, 7. The example, and I think all of us would agree that Scott McCann isn't great, but did Aberdeen not reject 9 million? And then a year and a half later, they went for 3 million, not for free. I think that shows that sometimes you do as much. The player needs to go because Josh Doig could break his leg next week, but for the player, I think really the player needs to go when the opportunities come. But I think sometimes the club need to strike when the iron's hot as well, and just recognise maybe that is at this stage in time the full market price. Because if he goes and has a stinker next season in the Hibs shirt, he's 19 with, all right, he's shite, let's be honest. If Josh Doig has 10 shite games in a row, we'll have written him off. It's just the nature of the beast. But it's fucking depressing talking about players that are going to leave. But in our heads, we've got tens of millions of pounds to spend.
I don't know what to talk about Ryan Porteous anyway. Don't worry, let's move on.
Well, you've come in first on here. Hibs have got tens of millions of pounds to spend, Greg. Give me your most unrealistic dream signing for Hibs, and why would it be that player?
Jason Kirks, it's not happening. I don't know. I mean, if you've got that much money, then
you can sign any football player in the world, but I want a little bit of justification for it.
Mbappe just to replace Nisbet.
Right.
I mean,
he'd probably do the job.
You're wasting Mbappe up front. Get him on the wing.
The boys are an absolute joke and will absolutely win France Euros single-handedly. So yeah.
Who do you think would win in a race, Mbappe or Boyle?
Mbappe. There's not even a question about it. Mbappe would have him.
Mbappe's a world class athlete, mate.
Who do you think would win in a race, Alan O'Brien or Kylian Mbappe?
Well, Alan O'Brien all day.
Who would win a diving contest between Martin Boyle and Tom Daly? Martin Boyle. Fact.
Liam, what about you? Dream signing?
And Greg took my shout. My shout was Mbappe, because I think centre forward's the most, like, that's the position that you absolutely want to go out and get the best in. I mean, who's second to Mbappe, do we think, in centre forwardship? Maybe Erling Haaland. Just because I think he'd probably be fucking tailor-made for the Scottish game. I can see him up against like fucking Joe Shaughnessy of St Mirren and just ragdolling him out the way and just charging through on goal, looking like he's about 400 feet tall. When you used to go watch Scotland games, when you were young, Scotland just always see playing Norway all the time. Norway at that time had John Carew. I mean, John Carew picked the ball up and ran at defenders that played for Scotland. He just used to look like this fucking man mountain that could run and go past you. That'd be like Haaland playing. Ken the photo of Lukaku with the wee bairns and he's at Anderlecht and they're all like around his feet. That'd be like what Haaland's like in the SPL. So good.
It's mad that he scored 2 against us, for Mulder. And little did we know that fucking because he missed the first leg, didn't he? Because it was like that was when the transfer speculation was going on, and if he'd played the first leg, like we'd have been going over to Norway with fucking no hope. Harry, what about you in terms of dream signing? Unrealistic dream signing.
I'd go for Ruben Diaz. I think he's just a very fun player to watch, and I think that any defence in the world with him at the moment would have the best centre back in the world, in my opinion. Van Dijk's not fit, so it's not a comparison at the moment, in my opinion. But I think the way he plays the ball, as well as how dominant he is in the air, I just think he's a fantastic player.
I think obviously he won was it Football Writers Player of the Year? He won one of the players of the he won one of the Player of the Year, and he didn't win Man of the Match in any game this season. But he won Player of the Year. That's weird. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's no fucking. I know HSL done just sort of whoever the fans want, but there's no correlation there. But it's like that's mental. You get Player of the Year, but you were never voted once as the best player in any game you played this year.
Yeah,
and
he
that's all
is so good. He is so good. Like his reading of the game, the way he conducts himself, he's just wow. Everything I aspire to be in a centre half.
For me, I would probably go with. I mean, the obvious ones like Messi, but I would probably go for someone a bit younger. Obviously, we've already had Haaland, we've already had Mbappe. Phil Foden. I think he's fantastic. He's going to have an absolute nightmare in the Euros, but I think Foden's very, very good. I think if you can get in that Man City team and stay in it at that age, I would probably go for Phil Foden.
You can take anyone in the world, and you've chosen an Englishman.
What a cop out!
That's Mbappe. You can tell who he's supporting next Friday, can't you?
How is Mbappe a cop out?
You basically took the brightest prospect of world football, but I'd have him.
That's not a cop out. That's a Judas. Makes me sick.
And you've chosen Phil Foden of all people. Wow, Ewan. Wow.
Well, I'm trying to think of youngsters. I didn't want to say Messi. I mean, I think realistically, if you could sign anyone, it's Messi. I mean, surely Messi. Like that's.
Would you not go for Andy Robertson to replace Doig?
Nah, Doig's better. So moving on to the let's think realistic. What do we want to see from Hibs this summer, position wise? For me, I think depending on who goes, if I go in line with what I think from earlier, I think we'll see Josh Doig leave and Kevin Nisbet leave. So I think we need a left back, 2 strikers. I'd like to see Jackson Irvine come back, and then probably a centre half. So that was 5 players: a centre mid, 2 strikers, a left back. I said 2 strikers, a centre mid, a left back, and a centre half, and that's on the assumption that Ryan Porteous stays.
Do you only want one centre half?
Yes, because I would be fine with Ryan Porteous or Paul Hanlon or Paul McGinn being third choice. That's on the assumption of Ryan Porteous staying. If Ryan Porteous goes, then I want 2. Because if Ryan Porteous is still here, then what's the point in not playing him? He's 22.
I would just want 2. I would even have 1 starting and 1 on the bench, but I'd want 2.
So you'd be bumping sort of Darren McGregor down at that point.
I've said it a lot. I want to bridge the age gap between the centre halves. It's too big.
Well, so for me, if I'm signing a centre half, I want someone in the mould of Jason Kerr or even Jamie McCart from St John's. I think he's very, very good as well. I'm not sure what age he is though, but I mean, I'm a big Paul Hanlon fan, but I would probably be looking at, if we were still going to be playing a back 3 at that point, probably dropping Paul McGinn. So then you still have Hanlon as the he'd still be a bit older, but then you'd have that gap bridged if you were to go to a 2 for sort of long-term thinking, looking at Porteous and another, and that brings that age down, would probably be my route to go down. What players spring to mind, Greg, when you think about players and positions that you want to see at Hibs next season?
Just the St Johnstone back three, to be honest. We can't break them down, so let's just buy them in.
I wouldn't take Liam Gordon out of the back three. I'd take Mccann Kerr, but I think Liam Gordon's just too. Hibs fans would not appreciate him as a centre half. He's too fucking basic.
Too kick it and need it.
Yeah, I mean he adds nothing. He's too old school, to be honest. I hate defenders that head it and kick it real hard and real long. But
I hate fucking midfielders that score. But hey, Stevie Mallon's no good enough.
So damn it, they're shite. We put them in today's game. To be honest, I think for me, top target would be Jason Kerr. To be honest, I think I wouldn't be. I mean, we could get some serious money this summer. Give him what he wants. He's a centre half that can attack the ball. Imagine that. Imagine having a centre half that can go and attack the ball, be aggressive, can play football.
Don't get me
Him and
started.
Aaron McGregor would get on so well.
Jason Kerr's
season.
Jason Kerr's that good in there that Paul Hanlon had the best percentage aerial duels won in the league.
Paul Hanlon's not good enough for Hibs.
Obviously, that's not good enough, though. That's not good enough in there that he won more headers than anyone else in the league. Enough. That's just not good enough. Liam, Jason Kerr, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Why would he want to come to Hibs? He's won the Scottish Cup. He's won the League Cup. He's finished in the top 4 with St Johnstone before. He's captain of St Johnstone. I'm not saying he would rather stay at St Johnstone and come to Hibs, but why stay in Scotland? If you're leaving St Johnstone, why? Unless you're going to Old Firm, maybe.
Hibs fan. More money. Bigger club. Room for progression. Better facilities. Just, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like, even if you want an
English Championship club?
But our English Championship club's looking at guys that play for St Johnstone. I mean, how many players from St Johnstone have gone down to England and been a success? Not many. So, I think Hibs is probably a bit of a stepping stone for him, if I'm being honest. I'm all right with being a stepping stone if he wants to come here for a couple of years, get another couple of third places, maybe even win another cup to chuck in his ever-growing trophy cabinet. Why not?
See, to be honest, what else can he actually achieve at St Johnstone?
Well, no, but I don't think he can't achieve anything else at St Johnstone. But I don't think he can achieve anything at Hibs that he hasn't achieved at St Johnstone.
No, but he could achieve what he's done at Johnstone with the supported.
I understand that, but I think if I'm Jason Kerr and Hibs are offering me the exact same money that an English Championship club's going, I'm moving south. Honestly, I am. Like, even if I'm a Hibs fan, I'm going. Like,
why?
Well, why? Like, why not?
You have to go live in some fucking hellhole place like fucking Stoke or something like that. I mean,
because in all honesty,
look, I like Nottingham Forest, but it's an absolute
English patriotism, man.
No, but listen to me, right?
You jack away, man.
Listen to me, right?
I can't wait to go to London with you and him supporting England.
Right. Listen to me, though, right? Listen to me, right? So we're talking about Hibs players. Hibs can be a stepping stone. Say a championship. This is all hypothetical. So say a championship club comes in for Jason Kerr this summer. It's going to be the same level of club that will come in for him leaving Hibs. John McGinn's one of the best players we've seen in recent years, and even he had to go to a championship side.
No, listen. The reason John McGinn leaves to a championship side is because they give him 10 times the money we could give him. If we could give him that money, he would never have left Hibs to the championship. Never.
Aston Villa are a huge club. You cannot compare them to other clubs in the championship. They are massive, Ewan.
You'd agree that Jason Kerr would be good enough to play in the English Championship. So what's to say that a team?
Doesn't mean to say that he would want to. It's
a levels,
it's a whole lifestyle change as well. You're moving everything down south, and for what? Right. Do you know it's going to work out?
I was just playing devil's advocate. I would like to see him at Hibs. I just don't think it'll happen. I would love it. And I think Hibs will be interested. I believe that Hibs will try. I think we will. I just don't think it will happen. I just don't see it. Liam, we sort of got distracted. Any Devante Cole's someone that you spoke about? Is there anyone else sort of that you think there's a fair chance he might end up at Hibs?
There's a few. So I think Regan Hendry is definitely a possibility. There's chat. I think that he was maybe in talks with an English League One side, so not even Championship.
Would you go to the English League One year over Hibs? Since we're
No,
If they offered the same money,
not League One. I just think in terms of the only thing with the chat, it's shite, but I think it's the way it is. I think English Premiership clubs would sign a player with 40 appearances and 5 goals for the Championship before they would sign someone with 40 appearances and 5 goals for Hibs. Just from a career perspective, that's all.
Can offer a centre-back name alternative as well to Jason Kerr. So Liam Lindsay's got a year to go on his deal at Stoke. I think from the bits I've seen of him, I think he's a very, very accomplished centre-half who's not getting a game in the hallowed English Championship. Jake Doyle-Hayes.
In January?
He was linked with Hearts the season they went down. They couldn't make it happen for whatever reason.
Was it a loan move?
I think they just signed loads of guys on loan. Anyone know what happened to Donis Avdijai, the guy that scores in every city? Never scored
No score against Barcelona, fan.
Jake Doyle-Hayes is another one. I think centre midfielder, deep lying, kind of does the dirty stuff. Jake Doyle-Hayes at St Mirren. Another one of these guys that brought over from the Irish League. Apparently, been really decent for St Mirren. I've only seen him play maybe 1 or 2 games, but the games he played, he looked decent. The boy Fuchs at Dundee United, I think, still got another year to run on his deal, but I had him on my list of people I would love us to go after because I think he's got that athleticism we were talking about earlier. And the other one, which I think will probably continue to be a rumour from now until the dawn of time, is obviously Lee Griffiths.
Yeah. Do any of you realistically think that will happen this summer?
Does he? Why not?
I think that it comes back to the profile. I think Hibs might stick quite strictly to the profile. I hope not, because it would. If a player like Lee Griffiths comes up, you need to do whatever you can to get him in the door. Before I go on to any devil's advocate behaviour, yes, I want Lee Griffiths to be a Hibs player. But I've also got a devil's advocate behaviour when you're finished being the devil's advocate for the second time.
Lee Griffiths hasn't scored more goals in the league than what Kevin Nisbet did this season for 4 seasons. That's a long time. He's not. He could he's what 30? 20, must be 30s at least, is he? 31.
31.
He would probably want to be our top earner. There's no. I would agree with what you're saying with the profile, Greg. I don't think there's any resale value there. Maybe similar to what you said earlier about Scott Allen, Liam. Is that? And I don't want to talk about people's personal life when we have no fucking idea about what goes on behind closed doors. But looking at it from a football point of view, Celtic were going for 10 in a row, and he wasn't able to get fit for pre-season. I'm sure he was fit throughout the season and he just wasn't flavour of the month, but he couldn't get ready for arguably the biggest season of his career. He'd said he wanted to stay at Celtic for 10 and all of that, and that he couldn't even get motivated for that. If you want to look at it through that channel, why would Hibs take the risk on that? If he had never played for Hibs before and he wasn't a Hibs fan, that player's profile, I don't think any of us would want to touch.
Really?
But I don't think we would. I honestly don't think we would. I would love it to happen. I do. I would like him to come, but I don't think now the way the club is set up would touch a player of that. Look at. I'm not going to say it.
Mate, he's so good. There is no question. The boy has so much ability, the technique, the lot. Off-field issues, who hasn't got them?
No,
who hasn't got them?
No, I agree. You talk about the profile, and that's a big jump in it. We're talking about young players with resale value to potentially a 2-year deal to see someone through at the end of their career.
I would also think that there'd be a list of players that you would never turn down, and he would be in that list, purely for the fact that he's a proven goal scorer in Scotland. He's just so good. He can score for anywhere. The boy is unbelievable. Look at his 2 free kicks against England. They were a few years ago, but
I watched them 10. Honestly, I've watched that video about 10 times a day.
But genuinely like that. He's just the ability. Maybe the pressure that Celtic got to him. Who knows? But
Yeah.
at Hibs, would be welcomed with open arms.
So Greg, Liam, you're
Build a
definitely
team
on.
around that.
So Greg, Liam, you're definitely on the Griffiths, and you're quite. You both think it will happen this summer, would I say?
It's more likely than not.
Yeah, Harry, where'd you land on Lee Griffiths? In terms of, I'm pretty sure you'd have him, but do you think it will happen?
It's a hard one, eh? I think if Lee Griffiths wants it to happen, it will happen. If Lee Griffiths doesn't want it to happen, it won't. I think the ball's fully in his court. Celtic could also be dicks about it because apparently they've got a clause in which they can extend his contract, so it wouldn't be free. I don't think we'd pay money for him.
Would that not have passed now, though? At the end of his contract? Well, I think the contract. I'm sure that option would. His current deal expired on the 31st of May. I don't know. There could have been a factor in the contract though that gave Celtic a period of time to exercise the option. But right as of now, it looks like he's going to be a free agent because his contract did expire on the 31st of May.
If Nisbet leaves, he's a perfect replacement, and it's probably a better player than Nisbet at the moment, in my opinion. So I don't see why you wouldn't take him. I think if the option's there to take him and he becomes the highest earner at the club, I think it would be stupid not to pay him.
Yeah, that's fair. Harry, what about you? And Greg as well. Any other standout names other than maybe Lee Griffiths, Jason Kerr, and the guys that Liam's mentioned?
I'll list off a few. I've got a couple regular takes and a couple of hot takes. Two central midfielders, obviously Alan Campbell. I think he's wanted by every man in their dug, so very unlikely we'd get him, but he would be an amazing signing, exactly what we're after. I really like that Hakeem Odafin from Hamilton. If the price was right on him, I wouldn't mind getting him. How
bad is his agent? You fucker.
Yeah.
Why did he sign in?
No ideal.
Should have got the same agent as Callahan.
What, Pele?
Then another central midfielder, Ali McCann, another St Johnstone boy. I think he's had a very good season. I've not actually seen him. I'm not focused on him much for St Johnstone, but I've seen him play for Northern Ireland, and he's looked really good internationally. And my hot take, this is good, but you probably haven't seen him play. I've seen him play for East Fife because I watched a few pay-per-view games with them, and he was banging in the goals. And then he went to Arbroath, banging in the goals. I like players that can score at every level. I'd have him over Jamie Gullen. I love Jack Hamilton from Livingston. I think he's going to play in their first team next season. I think he's going to score a lot of goals. And if we could get him now, whilst he'd probably be cheap, I would love to see him as part of the squad. I think he's for me, I think Jack Hamilton's everything we wanted Ollie Shaw to be.
Don't mention Ollie Shaw in front of you, and Jesus.
Still a touchy subject.
Of the Jack Hamiltons in Scottish football, he would definitely be the Jack Hamilton I would want us to sign.
Yes. Would agree.
Hi. You've mentioned Jack Hamilton throughout the season, and from that moment on, I think I sort of looked and I seen that he was scoring plenty. Did he only go to East Fife for like a month as well?
He started the season off at East Fife and he finished our top goal scorer, even though he only played for like 3 months.
Wow! Because he went back to Lovin and scored as well, didn't he?
I went back to Lovin and scored like 3 goals in 4 games or something, and then he sent him out to Arbroath. At Arbroath, he only scored, I think he scored like 8 goals in 19 games, which is still a decent return for the Championship.
But that's especially for a team like Arbroath part-time in a full-time league. One for me that hasn't been mentioned, and I don't think it'll happen, I think it looks like he's potentially going to League One in England. I think Sunderland and Portsmouth are sniffing about. It would be a risk maybe going on the St Johnstone trend again. Guy Melamed, I think, had a decent spell. I don't know. I thought
St Johnstone won 2 cups without their striker scoring a goal.
I know.
That'd be a stupid thing there, mate. I'm not gonna lie.
Maybe it would be, but I thought it wouldn't surprise me. Just that he was only 22 or so, and he looked pretty good for a couple of months, and then vanished out of the team when they sort of changed the way of playing. Nobody's mentioned Jackson Irvine.
For good reason.
Where are we?
Why stop having a go at me after he's just said Guy Melamed? That is unbelievably bad.
I took my no.
So bad.
I took his all say no.
We missed out on him today. Did you see we missed out on him? Curtis Main signing for St Mirren.
Oh, I've wanted to make that happen.
Curtis Main EDL signing for St Mirren.
No, but here, let's give Liam a shout out. Liam mentioned Lauren Shankland. What do you think of that?
No.
If Nisbet goes, I would take Shankland in a heartbeat. I think a team like Hibs, they would score plenty of goals. I don't think he had his best season, but when you look, if you were to compare the two players in the Championship, if Kevin Nisbet can score goals in this Hibs team, then Lawrence Shankland can score goals in this Hibs team.
Yeah,
would be my thought process. I wouldn't want to pay millions of pounds for him though, and I think this is where, for the first time in our fucking lives, I think if Hibs go try and cherry picking this summer, clubs are going to go, they're going to ask us for a lot of money. If we're bringing in millions of pounds, clubs are going to want millions of pounds. No, what I mean, see how last summer we got Kyle McGuinness for 200k. We signed, and a few we got Deutsch fairly cheaply as well the summer before. If clubs see that Hibs are selling Kevin Nisbet for £5 million, Dundee United are going to go, well, we want $3 million for Shankland. I would imagine. You remember when Liverpool sold Torres for 50 million and Newcastle got fucking 35 million for fucking Andy Carroll? Clubs aren't stupid. But let's go. I want Jackson Lovin chat here. I want him to come back. I do. I think he's. Again, I said it before. I don't think we should break the bank, because I think we've mentioned a few players that could. I think like Jake Doyle-Hayes and stuff like that are all good players. But I think Jackson Lovin, even if it is another year, would be a really good signing for us. What about you, Liam? Harry, I know you love him. Greg, you said no.
I would, same camp as you. I would 1 or 2 year deal. I would want him to sign. I think he brings quite a different skill set to the midfielders as we've got at the moment, and all the names that we've mentioned, maybe other than McGuinness, probably can't really do the job that he does as well as he does it. So I would like us to make an effort to sign him. But like you, I wouldn't want us breaking the bank. I think that kind of goes for really any signing. I don't want anyone really to break the wage structure of the club. That kind of goes over the top. So he definitely one I'd want to bring back in. I think at his stage in his career, I think it makes sense to sign a club like Hibs for another couple of years, because let's be honest, the payday in Australia will be waiting for him, whether he's 28, 29, 30, 31, 32.
But even
they'll always
the
have
Asian
that option.
market for them as well. The Asian market for the sort of Australian players is massive as well. Was it Milligan was in Asia for ages as well, wasn't it, before he came down? Was it Saudi or something? Right, so to wrap us up, don't include Jackson Lovin in this list. I think we'll treat Jackson Lovin as more a renewal, if you like. From each is free. That's a fiver for each. Top three for your ideal summer wish list for Hibs. What would be your dream free signings for this summer? Realistically, like the players mentioned or anyone that we've not discussed. Greg, I'll come to you first and rank them 1, 2, 3.
In terms of what? Sorry.
Like signings that you want to see this summer. Who would be your number one priority, second priority, third priority?
Jason Kerr would be number one. For me, I think Jake Doyle-Hayes would be number 2, to be honest. Someone that adds something a bit different. May as well just buy some in at this point, though. And number 3 would probably be Griffiths, to be honest. I think if we get 3 signings, 3 different positions, you're laughing at that point. Especially the players we might lose.
Is it they players that make you rank at that order, or is it position based? Do you think centre half is the main priority, then centre midfield, then striker, or is it that you think if Jason Kerr's there, we have to go get him, sort of thing?
I think it's part of that, but also partly because these players would add something different. Jason Kerr is a different centre half to Ryan Porteous and Paul Hanlon. Doyle-Hayes adds something different to what we've already got as well, and Lee Griffiths can score for 40 yards out or 4 yards out, so it's something different as well. So that is positions, but it's also the types of players as well that that are in that list as well.
Okay, and I'll go just now. I'm going to base it on the squad as it is just now. If Josh Doig goes, then left back for me has to be number one priority. But yeah, I think for me, my number one request would be Lee Griffiths. I know I played that sort of devil's advocate side of things, but if Lee Griffiths is available, I want him to sign him, and I do think he could be. That's the sort of, I know we finished third last season, and rightfully so, but I think that type of player is always going to be is sort of the ace in the pack, innit? I'd imagine. I don't think an Aberdeen, a Hearts, a St Johnstone will have a player at that sort of capabilities in their squads next season. second again if Jason Kerr was available on a decent at a decent price. However, in all honesty, I think Jamie McCart's better on the ball. If Jamie McCart was available at half the price, then I would go Jamie McCart over Jason Kerr. In all honesty, I really would. I think he's a very, very good player. I think Jason Kerr probably gets the headlines because he's the captain, and also Hibs fans, because we know he's a Hibs fan as well. We probably pay more attention there. And then third priority for me would be a central midfielder. I don't know what that looks like. I think if Jackson Irvine did re-sign, I think that would probably tick that box. If I'm being honest. I think we obviously spoke about goals from midfield and Jack Ross did, but I think we'll probably look to Kyle McGuinness, Stevie Mallon if he's still here for the. At the end of the day, I don't think if you're signing a player just to get your goals from midfield, don't sell Stevie Mallon. It's that simple. Liam, Harry, whoever wants to go next, what would be your top 3 requests for the summer?
But just one thing, personally, I think we should just leave St Mirren alone for a couple of seasons, because I genuinely don't like it when clubs just feed off other clubs. I hate it when Celtic and Rangers do it. I think it'd be hypocritical if we kept on doing it. But if we were to take a St Mirren player, I'd definitely take Jamie McGrath over that.
All day.
Like that,
and I think Aberdeen are sniffing about there as well, I think.
I mean, if Ewan came to me for my suggestions on who we should sign, and he was in my list, but I've been papped twice now.
Just for clarity, I mentioned Doyle Hayes because he's out of contract. Jamie McGrath still got a couple of years to run on his deal, I think. That's why I mentioned.
Because I was genuinely like, why are they going on with Doyle Hayes when Jamie McGrath scored has he not scored something crazy like 30 goals or something this season?
I
think he got 10 in the league, but now correct me. I think in all comps he scored 18 goals.
That's mental.
I'm sure
anyway,
there was
anyway, we digress. I'm going to go ridiculously ambitious. If we got this top 3, I reckon nobody would complain. Would be happy with the whole transfer window, even if people left. Number 3, Griffiths. Number 2, Campbell. Number 1, Kerr. If we got those 3, obviously very unrealistic. We'd have no wage budget left, but I think if we'd done that, I would personally say that's been a cracking summer.
I'd be walking about with a fucking constant hard on for about 2 months.
I'm going to actually be really fucking boring and just pretty much say the same as Harry, but a different order. Number 1 for me would be Alan Campbell, because I think he's the best free agent that's available in the free agent market. I know we still have to pay money to get him, but I think he's the best that's out there. Number 2 would be Jason Kerr. And number 3 would be Lee Griffiths.
Yep. Greg, you made a point. Any players not mentioned that you think deserve a good mention that you'd like to see in the hopefully emerald green next season?
Not now that Harry mentioned McGrath.
Sorry, mate.
To be honest, mate, notable shout-outs to Mccann, Campbell. So very, very good football players. McCart as well, good shout.
Kyle Lafferty.
I was see when I was talking about Lee Griffiths, did you notice that I went, what, like I was going to make a comparison and then I went, nah.
I
Absolutely not.
Are we all in agreement that we'll go down that sort of experienced in Scottish football route? Do you think? I don't think we'll see many players come in from England or that unless they played in the Scottish game before. Greg, you mentioned the profile earlier. Do you think that is something that will be sticking pretty rigidly to?
Yeah, I think you'll find that the players that we sign will have some experience of Scotland at some point.
good one.
Unless there is a totally wild.
Aye,
like a Melka Halmag that nobody's seen coming. So yeah, I think we'll stick pretty exclusively to Scotland or experience in Scotland. To be fair.
Cool.
What about Lewis Morgan? I'd take him.
No, absolutely not.
Well out there. I think he's
I'd take him, but
you would end up bankrupting yourself trying to sign him.
I'm just trying to think of wingers because I genuinely think we need another left winger. I've not seen much Mccann.
Controversial one. Greg Stewart at Rangers, Jordan Jones at Rangers as well.
I'd take Jordan Jones, even though he has a wee expletive. I would absolutely take him. I think he's the sort of player that he almost kind of like Gary Mackay-Steven a few years ago at Aberdeen. You just sort of see when he was in another team, you thought, oh, he could do something. Now he's at Hearts. Gary Mackay-Steven's irrelevant and will never do anything again in the game of football. But I still think Jordan Jones. I would rather have him. And if we were facing a team, I'd rather he was in our squad than their squad. I would probably say. And he's just got that little bit of bastardness about him as well that sometimes I quite like. Greg Stewart. I don't know. He's out of contract, isn't he?
Yeah.
Was it
He's a weird one, eh?
when you've got Jamie Murphy?
I know.
I don't think he would. I don't.
Turns up for. Aye, let's not get started on him. No thanks.
I don't. Out of the players that we signed in January and last summer and stuff, who do you look forward to seeing the most next season? For me, I can't wait to see Chris Cadden at the start of next season. I think he could be really good.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, he's without doubt the one I'm most excited about. The boy has plenty of ability. He can take a hit. He can take people on. It's perfect for what we need. So yeah, I think he's definitely the one I'm looking forward to seeing the most. The others, see what happens next season. But Cadden's going to be a massive player for us.
And then just one final question to all you, right? Because I've seen a thread on Hibs.net. Would you be looking at this squad right now, if you were to compare them to the rest of the squads in the league? Would this squad finish third place? I think it would. I think you've only lost Marciano and Irvin, and Aberdeen didn't have a striker.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to look at it like that, but yeah,
I think it would. I hand on heart think this squad would finish third place. With don't get me wrong, I think players will leave and players will come in, and Aberdeen will eventually sign a striker. But right now they don't have anyone. It was just a thread I seen on Hibs.net, and people were like, I think someone saying would finish like between 5th and 7th. What?
I think 4th would be the worst. I think you'd maybe see St Johnstone possibly finish above us.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if the season started tomorrow, St Johnstone would be favourites for third, and I would say us and them would be the. I don't see right now.
Good squad, good set of players, and yeah, to be tactically switched on, and so yeah, I don't think Hibs would finish third if the season started tomorrow. To be honest.
Cool, Harry, where'd you land on that third place?
Nah, mate, we'd finish second.
Love that. I can still didn't have a manager yet, so a good point. Well, lads, thanks for joining us once again. Thanks for listening. I think we will be recording next week. I don't think it'll be on Monday though with the Scotland game. Liam's getting to go to the Scotland game, luckily enough, and us three are going to be probably together getting fucking pissed watching Scotland in a European and a major competition. What first time in? I was going to say it's been in our lifetimes, but I don't think any of us can remember.
Harry, I was 4.
I was 1.
Did you say 4? Do you not mean 36?
Sure. How are you 1? Oh, you're 87, eh?
I was 1. I think Harry might have been a couple of months. Would it be right?
I would have been about 5 months, mate.
Right, well, no, thanks a lot for joining us. We will record some point next week, maybe Tuesday, or we might take a week off and then come back after the England game. Who knows? I think we do deserve a wee pre-season break, and we do have a good guest joining us on Monday the 21st as well, so keep your eyes out for that one when it comes on as well. Thanks.
Cheers.